back. We're talking about growth in Utah. We have here Brooks Pace, who's the Democratic candidate for the state Senate seat in Washington County, and with Steve Urquart, now a representative and the Republican candidate for the state Senate seat in Washington County. John, you're on the air. Your question, please.
Yeah, my question is about this wilderness area. I think we have excess wilderness as it is now. And I think there's a lot of facilities tied up that we are being declared as wilderness. These people back east, they think that the wilderness is, they don't have any idea what it is, what our country is out here. They don't have the slightest idea. And they think wilderness, that's a great deal. And I think we've got a lot of facilities tied up that we shouldn't have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Okay. He says we've got enough wilderness. It's something that Easterners impose on us, and they don't understand Utah. And there are things tied up that we could use for other purposes.
Well, we've got a lot of land in Utah, and we're not talking about a huge portion of the land going into wilderness. These are pristine areas that should be saved for the future generations, for hiking and backcountry. I mean, to get out and away from urban centers is very healthy, and I'm sorry this man doesn't appreciate it, but most do. And even in Utah, I think you're going to find, possibly even in this election coming up, that a lot of people support wilderness and support protecting our open spaces.
Okay, about 57 million acres in Utah, and about 9 million would be wilderness under the proposal, the Red Rock proposal that you favored.
Right.
Why? So that would be a lot more in proportion than in any other state, except maybe Alaska.
Yeah.
I don't know Alaska, but okay, they have a lot. But why so much more than Arizona or Colorado, or in proportion?
Well, proportion-wise, and remember, as we talked earlier, it's the 300,000 in Washington County that I'm mainly conversant with, and those, I believe, are very valuable parcels to save. The entire 9 million through the state, because I haven't been to every one, I can't actually defend every single one. But remember, of that 57 million acres of land in the state, 67% of it is Bureau of Land Management, federal land owned by every citizen in the United States. To protect 9 million of it, 16% of it doesn't seem excessive.
Would you talk about wilderness in general? First, 300,000 acres in Washington County.
Yeah, let's put the numbers in perspective. Total acres, you got to remember, a lot of that already is protected in forests and national parks. So of the BLM land, you're talking half of it. So again, this often isn't superlative. This is average or above average.
Half of all the BLM land would be wilderness if it were 9 million acres.
Yeah, so that's not a superlative.
Okay.
But one thing I want to do is frame the pipeline debate here. This is the Sierra Club that's for wilderness, and this is part of the effort to drain Lake Powell. I think that's what is behind most of this, is they realize that when a community is dependent upon that for its water source, it makes it that much more difficult to drain Lake Powell. These are the same people who brought us $4 a gallon gas, who believe that scarcity is the way that they can control society.
Okay, now, let me say what I think you're saying here. Some people want to drain Lake Powell. Right now, Lake Powell's a regulatory lake. It doesn't, nobody actually takes, or hardly anybody, actually takes a lot of water out of it for use. You think if once St. George starts taking water out for use, then that will take draining Lake Powell off the table, and then that's a large part of the opposition.
Yes, Sierra Club that's driving this effort, they understand that it's that much more difficult to drain Lake Powell once this community is dependent upon it for its water source.
Would you comment on that?
I love Lake Powell. I would hate to see Lake Powell be drained. That isn't my position at all. And if it were drained, this is a very secure position to take water out of, right down by the dam. It's not totally a regulatory dam, remember. I mean, it supplies water to Lake Mead, which supplies water to the lower dams, which supplies water, stores it for later supply into the Imperial Valley, Orange County,
That's sort of what I meant by
California.
Regulator. It regulates the flow, but
it's a storage reservoir.
Okay, yeah.
In every sense of the word, it's a storage reservoir, a very important storage reservoir. 200 years from now, it may fill up with silt. That's another issue. For right now, it stores a lot of water. And if the water's there, it's needed. There is the debate as to whether the two lakes, Mead and Powell, are both needed. That's another debate. I hope Lake Powell can stay. The point is, and I'm for this water right being developed in Utah, by the way. I'm just don't feel that we need to spend billions to bring it to Washington County where we have local water. It ought to be developed closer to Lake Powell. There's many counties over there that are half depressed. Kane County owns Big Water. Sitla owns 40,000 acres of land in Big Water, about 5 miles from Lake Powell. That's where it ought to be developed. Give it to Sitla, let them develop a wonderful desert community like St. George, so that because people want to move to the desert. In southern Utah, in St. George, for the growth that I think the citizens want, we have enough water and land.
Rod, this is an important point. Can I follow up on this? We do have a lot of water in Lake Powell. The only place we're going to use it is St. George. And so we're bringing it there. The present cost that we're talking about, this is 1/10 of 1 penny per gallon. This is a good investment. So environmentalists, a lot of this is playing whack-a-mole, that they say, well, don't use it in St. George, use it in a non-existent community, some fictitious community out by Lake Powell. Or we heard earlier that if you build it, we're going to have too much growth. Well, wait, if you build it, the growth might not happen, so we can't pay for it. I mean, it really is playing whack-a-mole when you deal with these environmental groups.
Judy, you're on the air. Your question, please.
Yes, I think you're missing a point down there. St. George is a beautiful community, and I love it dearly.
Thank you.
I did live there. But I think you're forgetting about one thing. You're pushing all the middle-class people out for these million-dollar homes, and who's going to be working in Walmarts and Albertsons and McDonald's? Are the rich people going to go there and work when you push all of the middle class out with no homes to rent or buy?
Okay, that's a pretty good question. Is St. George pricing itself out of existence?
Absolutely. Judy, thank you so much for the question. I want someone to tell me a community that has successfully limited growth. You're looking at profoundly affluent communities. The way you do that is by saying that we're only going to have expensive housing and it prices everyone else out. And so people who actually work in the Walmarts, work in the schools, who are cops, they can't live in the community. So we need to focus on affordable housing, and limiting growth, limiting resources is absolutely the wrong way to do that.
Okay, that's one way of seeing it if everything is just run by laissez-faire. Here's what we need. We need growth, and to pay for the pipeline, we need growth because people want to move there. We have a huge amount of developments that have already been developed. We need the growth to come for them, but we need quality growth. We need sustainable growth, and we need well-planned-for growth. With well-planned-for growth, you attend to the affordable housing problems, because yes, absolutely, when you start limiting and making scarce anything, there are huge social impacts when we're talking about the issue of limiting growth in Washington County. So you have to build in to this scheme a price that all developers pay that attends to the people that are working in Walmart and making the beds and serving the food. Absolutely.
Okay, so part of your plan would be affordable housing.
Absolutely.
And government would help build affordable housing.
The developers would help build affordable housing. The government would insist that it happen.
Okay, essentially they'd tax the development and use the money, or they'd say you have to give so much.
Right.
If you put up 50 acres, you have to have 3 acres or whatever.
Something
for
affordable
like acre
yes.
housing, or however that worked.
Yes.
Okay, now he says that the water, that there's a fictitious community that you have out there in the desert. Okay, and in fact, it isn't there, right?
Well, it's not there yet. St. George was a fictitious community in 1860, so I mean everything starts somewhere. You know, Laughlin was nothing 30 years ago, and now it's a desert community. You know, developments start all the time from scratch. My own development in Dameron Valley had 0 homes 30 years ago, and now it's got 400 homes.
You think it's going to happen? You think big water could happen?
It'll happen if the water is, you know, it takes water. And with water, yes, it will and can happen.
Your colleague Mike Noel, have you talked to him about big water? Does he covet that water?
I mean, Mike's job is to covet all water in the area. So.
Okay. I would say this: if you're elected, the pipeline isn't going to happen. I'm talking as a Wasatch Front guy. We can keep our taxes up here if you guys down there don't want it. Do you think that's right?
I think it's a little strong, Rod. I actually am not totally anti-pipeline. I don't want it if we don't need it, and I don't think we need it. But I would only be one of 120 people speaking, so you're giving me a lot of power if I'm elected.
You're going to work for the pipeline.
Absolutely. Forced scarcity is not the way to go.
Commercial break. We'll be back after this.